Hola amigos, welcome back to my channel. So I've been mentioning a few times that I want to travel to Australia, hopefully this year. And more people, when I say that, they have commented that I should be aware that Australia is very expensive. So I'm getting a bit nervous when I read these comments, but because I didn't really look into how much money I will spend while I'm there. So I haven't really made up my budget, and already looking at the flight ticket, it's quite expensive because it is very far away. So I decided to look into how expensive is Australia. So I found this video called "Australia is super expensive?" And I decided to just give it a look and see if I should sell my kidneys before traveling to Australia or not. Let's see.
How expensive is Australia? For this question, we might get different answers from tourists than we do from the locals. So I went out to the streets of Brisbane, Australia to ask both locals and tourists if they think Australia is expensive.
So as an Australian, do you find it expensive living in Australia?
Yeah. 100%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I do find this country to be expensive.
Okay, it's starting bad for me. My bank account, it's bleeding already from listening to these people.
Yeah, I do find this country to be expensive. I think living in Australia is very expensive. Rent is very expensive and food is very expensive here.
Definitely.
Yeah. Sydney, Melbourne, yeah.
We need a pay
Gold
rise.
Coast, no. Brisbane, yeah.
It's very expensive in Australia.
Oh, no.
But I guess to counteract that, we've got good minimum wage, but still tax high.
Coming from a different country, I reckon our expenses.
Okay, looking at this guy, it looks like shirts are also expensive. I'm just kidding.
Cost a lot more. But living here and originating in Australia, I reckon it's perfect for the wage rate that we get.
Maybe. You can live in Brisbane pretty cheap. You can do everything basically for free or for a couple bucks a day. But if you want a lavish lifestyle, it can be pretty exy here. Yeah. Expensive.
Food in particular is quite expensive, and the quality of the food isn't as good as it is in Southeast Europe or in the Mediterranean parts of Europe.
Yeah, petrol's expensive.
Groceries,
Especially for vegans.
Cost of living, food's more expensive, housing's more expensive. The food is better here, so I can understand why it's pricier, but like Europe and the US and whatnot, they're so much cheaper.
Also, it's expensive, but compared to Singapore and Europe, it's kind of like normal.
Okay.
I would say it's average, above average.
I come from Belgium and I think that the euro is more expensive than the Australian dollar. And as a student here, I think the life it's less expensive. For example, for a meal we can spend maybe $10 and it's really cheap for us.
I'm from Netherlands and I think overall Australia is quite expensive compared to Netherlands. But at the other hand, in Australia, earn quite good money as well.
If I compare to Korea, Korea is more expensive, I think.
Korea is more expensive than Australia.
Yep.
I'm from Iran originally, and compared to Iran and I think other countries that I've been to, it is more expensive. Like I've been to Malaysia, like Asian countries. It is definitely way more expensive, especially like in bigger cities like Brisbane.
I'm just wondering if he's gonna interview a Mexican. I think the Mexican will start crying because I come from Mexico, so I know. Mexico is a very cheap country, so a Mexican living in Australia must be comparing all the prices. If you go to buy some tacos, you're like, oh god, in Mexico I could buy 10 tacos, here I can buy one. Actually, my sister is a Mexican living in Australia, but I guess it's different when you live there already and have Australian wages, then you can afford all these things. But if you're from a country that earns quite low minimum wage and then you travel to Australia, then it's gonna hurt. Luckily, I live in Denmark, so I don't think it will be that different, but I don't know. These people are not making it any easier for me.
Everything is like expensive more than Japan. About food.
Did that surprise you, coming here, or you already knew that?
I actually didn't know before I came to Australia.
Compared to France, I think it's expensive. Even the food is very expensive. Just the fast food are very cheap, but yes, for me it's expensive.
And for me that I live in Brazil, Australia is really expensive. It's really hard to eat. It's really hard to go to a supermarket because everything that you are going to buy is like 3 or 4 times the price.
So yeah, that's what I was saying. I think Brazil and Mexican prices must be quite similar. So this guy lives in Brazil, but he went to visit Australia, and he's like, oh, everything is expensive. So I think it depends of the country where you're traveling from. And here in Denmark, wages are also high, but taxes are quite high. So I think the cost of being there for me will be the same money I would have spent if I stayed in Denmark. So I only need to look at the flight prices. So I think I'll be okay.
And half years ago, when we go to Coles or Wally's, 2-liter milk would be $2 only. Now it's not 50. And also the bread, the cheapest one was 70 cents. Now it's 1.30. Yeah. And also the roasted chicken, that's a popular one, from $7 until $12. That's would be huge change during 3 years only.
Why do you think things cost more here, just in general, like the overall price?
I think one part is that we're so far from everything, so the trade is probably pretty expensive to get stuff down here. And then like produce and whatnot is a lot healthier, less, GMO stuff in our food, so that's a bit more pricier for us as well.
Do you find that buying things online is more expensive for Australians?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I've
If like shopping in America, I get the dollar conversion, but like a t-shirt in America is like $20, whereas in Australia it could be the same t-shirt's 50.
Almost anything that you buy online is like doubly expensive for
Yeah,
Australia.
because it has to get there, right? That makes sense.
And then plus all the shipping just like skyrockets the whole price of it, and it's awful.
For like some items, the shipping costs more to get it over here than the actual item itself, so it's a little harder.
Maybe it's weird. Maybe Australia just seems like some weird little country down there.
Everyone knows we'll pay more for things.
Yeah, we just will.
More.
We should just all buy local. Everything buy local, and it'll be good.
That's even more expensive.
Yeah, true.
I like her. All right, well, there you have it. I think, I just have to dig a little deep in my bank account and just make some budget for myself. It didn't seem like the people he interviewed from Europe. They all said that the prices were okay. So I think I would be in a very similar situation coming from Denmark. I'm not Danish. I'm from Mexico, but I live in Denmark. So yeah, I think it should be okay. So thank you for your warnings. I guess that is it for today's video. As usual, if there is anything you'd like me to react to next, please put it down in the comments below and I'll make sure I get to it as soon as I possibly can. But without any further ado, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. I love you and I will see you next time. Bye.